right, looks like we have everybody in. I want to welcome you guys tonight. My name is Katie DeMeo. I'm from AIM Consulting, and I just wanted to thank you guys for joining us this evening to learn more about the Soquel Drive, Buffered Bike Lane, and Congestion Mitigation Project. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'm just going to go over a few of the Zoom logistics. As you've noticed, when you came in here tonight, everyone is going to remain muted throughout this entire meeting tonight. But the chat box is where you're going to be able to put in questions throughout the presentation, as well as put any clarifications you might need. And again, any questions for us to answer at the end of our presentation. We are also recording the meeting tonight. And so we'll have this meeting recording posted to our website to review at a later date. And as I just mentioned before, I have put in the chat box the project website. And that is where the meeting recording will live, as well as a summary of this meeting tonight. So again, we'll have plenty of time after this brief presentation to go through some questions and answers, and feel free to put them into the chat box below anytime throughout the meeting. I'm going to go over our quick agenda for tonight. First, again, we're going to go through some welcome and some introductions. Then we're going to have a little presentation about the existing conditions, goals, and budgets of the project. We're then going to go over a brief overview of what the project will do, go over the schedule, and then, like I mentioned, we'll have plenty of time to answer all of the questions and answers, and then give you a slide on how to stay informed about the project and who to contact with any further questions. So with that, I'm going to introduce our team, and each one of our team members will wave when I introduce. So with Santa Cruz County, we have Russell Chen, Tim Nguyen, Steve Weisner, Jason Hoppen, with Amanda Rotella. With Mark Thomas, we have Sean O'Keefe, Daniel Bloomquist. As I mentioned myself, my name's Katie DeMeo. And then we do have Kayla Nick Kearney here tonight, is filling in for Esme this evening. And with that, I am so honored to be able to introduce your supervisor here tonight. We have Supervisor Manu Koenig that's going to give some welcoming remarks. Supervisor?
Thank you so much, Katie. It's a pleasure to be here tonight with all of the members of the community and the project team. I'm really excited about this project. It's going to be transformational for our county and just make it way easier for people to walk, bike, and take transit to all their destinations: school, work, the grocery store. And as some of you may know, one of the most troubling statistics about our county is that we're among the worst in the state for bike and pedestrian accidents per capita. So this is a project that's long overdue and one that will literally save lives. It's also a project that's going to create a more sustainable future for us. It really represents a change in our thinking about transportation, from being focused exclusively on cars to being inclusive of all the other options that I mentioned. And it's really that change in thinking that won us the state funds to make it possible. So just so that you all understand the background, our county applied for a State Solutions to Congested Corridors grant with a project that includes both the Highway 1 auxiliary lane project as well as this Soquel Drive project that we're learning more about tonight. And out of $500 million total available statewide, our little county received $107 million for those combined projects. That's pretty unheard of for a tiny county like ours. And it's really a testament to the vision behind this project, to this change in thinking, and it also is a testament to the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that this represents. Now, in addition to the state funds, we'll be providing local matching funds from Measure D, particularly for the highway portion, and impact fees from projects like along Soquel Drive, like the Dominican Hospital expansion, will also help ensure that we have the funds to complete this project. And as other projects come forward in the area, we're going to use those opportunities to increase connections to Soquel Drive, for example, with sidewalks and bike lanes between Soquel Drive, down Chanticleer Avenue, connecting to the new bike and pedestrian bridge, and then over the highway and down Chanticleer Avenue all the way to Capitola Road. So we'll be looking for opportunities with other local projects that are funded by Measure D as well. So for example, in the near future, we'll be resurfacing Thurber Drive and Fairway Drive. We'll also be resurfacing the lower 3 miles of Soquel San Jose Road. And every time we do that, we're really looking at it with a complete streets lens. So again, making things safer for bikes and pedestrians. And so if Soquel Drive is the spine, all these other projects are the ribs that will continue to connect major neighborhoods and create a more sustainable way of getting around our community. So that's why I'm so excited about this project. I hope you learn a lot tonight. I hope you get excited too. I look forward to working with all of you to make this the best project it can be. And with that, I'll hand it over to Russell Chen, our lead county engineer on the project team.
Thank you, Supervisor Koenig. Yeah, I agree. This is a great project. It includes enhancements for different modes of travel, which we'll discuss later in our presentation. I'm going to go over the existing conditions, project goals, and budget. The existing conditions, the project is on Soquel Avenue, Soquel Drive, and it goes from La Fonda to State Park Drive. It's about 5.6 miles in one direction. It's a 4-lane roadway with center turn lanes. We have high volumes. As you know, when Highway 1 is congested, traffic spills onto Soquel Drive. We also have high speeds despite 35-mile-per-hour speed limits. We also have transit delays due to congestion. And we also have existing sidewalk gaps and ADA ramps that were built to previous standards. Those are the general existing conditions of Soquel Avenue, Soquel Drive. Now I'm going to go into the project goals. Next slide, please. Okay. Our number one goal is safety. And one of the safety goals is bike safety. As Manu had mentioned, Santa Cruz County ranks near the top for California counties for the highest number of bike crashes. Something we're not proud of, but we think this project will help. We also want to reduce traffic congestion, which will increase corridor throughput, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve emergency response times, improve access to housing, jobs, schools, and medical facilities. Our other goals are to improve active transportation connectivity, promote sustainable development. I'm going to go over the project budget. I'll give you a little background. As Supervisor Koenig mentioned, this project is part of the Watsonville to Santa Cruz Multimodal Corridor Program that came out of the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission's Unified Corridor Investment Study. The study identified multimodal transportation projects on Highway 1, on Soquel Avenue, Soquel Drive, and Freedom, and also on the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line. The projects identified in this study provides the greatest benefit to the community. The RTC did extensive community outreach in developing this study. The county partnered with the RTC on the Watsonville to Santa Cruz Multimodal Corridor Program and received the Solutions for Congested Corridors grant. The grant was for $16.5 million, and the county's matching fund is $3.5 million, with the current funding of $20 million. Construction estimate is 20.5. We have a shortfall of about 500,000, so we continue to seek additional funding and also doing some value engineering. That concludes my part of the presentation. I'd like to turn it over to Sean O'Keefe, who will go over the project overview. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Russell. So one thing before we jump into the overview and some of the project elements is I wanted everyone to understand that we're not widening Soquel Drive as a part of this project. Really, this is reimagining what we can do within the existing curbs and the space that we have out there today. We'll be adding some additional sidewalks and curb and gutter to close some gaps, but otherwise in general, we really are working with within the existing conditions that we have out there in the field. So you can see here, as Russell mentioned, the project goes from La Fonda all the way over to State Park, and we've identified the signals locations where we're going to be upgrading at those locations, as well as what facilities we'll be able to implement from a bicycle perspective, as well as we're now adding additional mid-block crossings and RRFBs throughout the corridor. Next slide, please. Some of the project features and the specifics around that are we'll be adding 5 miles of separated bikeways, class 4. In this case, if you look in the upper right-hand corner of this slide, you'll see what a class 4 cycle track looks like. It's a buffer between the traveled lanes and the bike lanes with a vertical separation. In this case, a class 1 delineator, which is very similar to the treatments that we'll be putting on Soquel Drive. We'll also be able to add 5 miles of buffered bike lanes. So that's class 2 lanes without a vertical separation, and also a wider stripe in some locations to provide that separation between the vehicles and the cyclists. We'll also be implementing 27 new bike boxes. You can see in the lower right-hand corner, that's a 2-stage bike box where cyclists, instead of traversing across the high-speed and congested travel lanes to make a left-hand turn to a cross street, you actually go with the flow of traffic across the intersection, stop, and then wait for the cross street's light to turn green, and then continue on the cross street. We have an animation we can also share as well if folks are interested. Next slide, please. Other project features from a pedestrian perspective are, again, this 0.6 miles of sidewalk gap closures. These are the most challenging parts along the corridor. Obviously, there's sidewalks along most of it, but we do have some challenging spots that we'll be taking a look at and constructing as a part of this project. 3.3 miles of sidewalk reconstruction. Those are the locations mainly along Harbor High, and we'll get to the more details of that. And we have a specific slide for that location. Almost 100 reconstructed curb ramps. As we went through the project design, we actually went out to the field, looked at the surveys, and make sure that everything is now up to current standards. So we'll be reconstructing multiple curb ramps across the corridor, as well as the 70 crosswalk upgrades. And those will include enhanced striping and signage for the benefit of not only pedestrians and cyclists, but also motorists, as well as 11 mid-block crossings with RFBs. That's a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which you can see in the picture on the right-hand side. There are currently 7 existing mid-block crossings along the corridor. We're actually adding 4 more as a part of this project. Those coincide to locations where we have the new overcrossings at Mar Vista, as well as Chanticleer, also a location at Willowbrook, and then as well as near Cabrillo College. So I think nice enhancements to provide more connectivity from a pedestrian perspective. Next slide. And finally, the bus and vehicular improvements. At each intersection, we're looking at transit signal priority, which will enhance transit reliability along the corridor, as well as adaptive signals, which are linked together to increase throughput along the corridor as well, and manage the congestion. And finally, we have pavement rehabilitation that will be in the form of Cape Seal. What that'll do is not only increase the longevity of the existing pavement along the corridor, but also provide a nice blank canvas for the new striping to be able to pop against the new black asphalt. Next slide, please. This is our typical cross-section that you see here. Again, generally staying between the existing curbs, with the exception on the right-hand side where we show again some of that new sidewalk gap closure. We will require retaining walls to be able to implement those new connectivity from a network perspective on the pedestrian side. What we're doing to be able to accommodate some of these new facilities from the bicycle side is narrowing the lanes. So we have 11-foot minimums on the outside lanes and then 10.5 generally on the inside, except for some very constrained locations. Also, we'll be narrowing the 2-way left turn lane where we have those opportunities to provide for the enhanced bicycle facilities on the outside. Next slide, please. Finally, I want to jump into a couple of sections across, or a couple of locations across the corridor that I think are notable. The first one here is at Cabrillo College. The top cross section, as you can see, shows the existing condition. This is sidewalks with parking, and then you have bike lanes squeezed between the parked cars and the travel lanes. Well, in this case, in close coordination with the college, we've actually been able to remove the parking in this location along Cabrillo to provide an enhanced bikeway and a vertical separation between the travel lanes and the bike lane. So a really nice enhancement in front of the college. Next slide. And this is that location in front of Harbor, where we have about 0.3 miles or a little more 1,500 feet of sidewalk reconstruction. As you can see in the picture there, the retaining wall is falling over. It's obviously a very steep ravine in that location, as well as the pathway itself is very cracked and hard to navigate, as clearly not up to current ADA standards. So in this case, we'll be building a new retaining wall with a brand new railing, as well as a concrete sidewalk through this location to really clean up what is a heavily trafficked area around the high school. Next slide. Next location will be at 41st Avenue as it tees into Soquel. If you look in the picture on the right-hand side, or the graphic on the right-hand side, you'll see some of the dark gray new sidewalk where there's existing gaps in the network. And so those will be a nice addition to be able to get us to the intersection at 41st and cross 41st at this location, and bring that up to ADA standard. As well as, if you notice on the T part where we have 41st Avenue, with the restriping, we're actually squaring up the vehicular movements to the intersections, hopefully slowing those cars down so they're not making a high-speed right turn and getting onto Soquel Avenue. Next slide. Jumping into the Soquel Village area, we're very constrained at this location. So to be able to put in bike lanes, we do have to narrow down things quite a bit. You will see some 10-foot lanes here, but those are actually consistent with the existing lane configuration within the area. And then as well as here's the bike boxes also. You'll see that along Porter Street. We have the bike stop boxes on either side, again, to allow for enhanced safety for those cyclists that will not want to compete with vehicles as they make a left turn on Soquel. They'll be able to go across and wait safely until the cross traffic light turns green. Next slide. And finally, wanted to detail one area it's very typical where we have our sidewalk gap closures. You can see this location is between Wisteria and Ledyard, and on the south side, you'll see Mar Vista. There will be impacts. As you look in the upper left-hand corner at that picture, we can see the bike lane there, but clearly there's a steep slope where we need to put in that new sidewalk. So small retaining walls will be required in these locations to be able to make the sidewalk gaps work. We also have on the right-hand side a unique feature in this stretch, which is a drainage culvert, a drainage facility. So we'll be providing a new little cantilevered sidewalk section with a new railing to connect that gap. What you'll also see in the middle of the screen here is where that new mid-block crossing is to Mar Vista. So we'll get you over the new pedestrian overcrossing over Highway 1. I think one thing also to note that if you are impacted by the project for the sidewalk gap closures, the county has been in touch with almost everyone along this corridor. So if you have specific questions about impacts to your property, please continue to work with the county representative who should have been in touch with you at this point to understand what the potential impacts will be along your frontage. And this meeting today is essentially to discuss kind of bigger picture items. But again, if you do have those specific asks, continue to work with the county on that and the person that's reached out to you in the past. Next slide, please. Jumping into again some of those construction considerations, I think it should be noted that in general, the traveling public should not be really impacted too much by this project. Really, the heavy construction work will be along those areas where we have those sidewalk gap closures and the retaining walls that need to be constructed. There will be shoulder closures in those locations with some periodic lane closures when things need to be adjusted, utilities or otherwise. And you will see temporary restriping, again, really limited to those locations where we're going to have the sidewalk gap closures. Those spots will also experience some side street and driveway access impacts. Obviously, we'll need to be able to remove the existing slopes in those locations, put up the forms for the concrete, pour the concrete, let the concrete pour. So those folks will see impacts as it relates to some access to those properties, as well as intermittent service interruptions. There will be potential power pole relocations, as well as some water valves that need to be adjusted as a part of the project. We will be maintaining bicycle and pedestrian access. Obviously, with lots of curb ramps being reconstructed, as well as some shoulder closures, we'll maintain access across the corridor. And then finally, as we look to construction, we hope it's on the shorter side here towards 12 months, but just to be safe, we're saying to 12 to 18 months, just in case of construction complications and or weather delays due to rain or otherwise. We anticipate it should take no longer than 18 months for project construction. Next slide. Finally, wrapping up with our project schedule, a little bit of where we've been. We completed our preliminary engineering last year in September, and we're looking to complete the final design here next month with our right-of-way acquisition being complete in spring 2022 that allows us to get out to construction by this summer. So again, with the construction schedule in mind, we can get out to construction this summer. Hopefully we can complete by summer of 2023. If not, it will likely be completed by the end of 23 and open to the public. So with that, we'll turn it over to any questions.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sean. We're getting some great questions in our box here. Again, just a reminder, you can put all of the questions in the chat box below. I am going to start with two questions that we got submitted to us before this meeting even started. The first one is whether planned improvements include adding sidewalk on the stretch of Soquel between 41st and Robertson, since it currently has none.
41st and Robertson. We are going to be installing sidewalk on a portion of that from 41st. I think, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a portion there that we're not going to, I think by the mobile home park?
Yeah, that's correct, Russell.
Great, thank you. And then someone wanted to ask if the project team was aware that the Murray Street Bridge renovation is happening at the same time, and if we're looking into those considerations as well.
Yes, we are aware that the Murray Street Bridge could be happening at the same time. So we are coordinating with the city with the Murray Street Bridge. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, now to get to the questions in our chat box. Will Soquel lose a lane during the bike buffer or due to the bike buffer?
No, it will not. We're going to keep the same number of lanes that are currently in use right now.
Wonderful. Is there a sidewalk planned between Robertson and the Safeway shopping corner at Capitola Road? If so, will there be a retaining wall as well?
I think that was like the same question as before from Robertson to 41st. And yes, there will be retaining walls in where we do have sidewalks.
Okay, great. Also, is there a traffic light planned at Robertson and Soquel Avenue? If so, how will the entrance on Alomar Park be accommodated?
There will be not as part of this project, but we are planning on having a signal installed at Robertson and Soquel. I'm gonna have to get back to you on the entrance to Alomar Park. We haven't got quite that far yet.
All right. Kayla, if we can go back to the screen, we have someone who wants us to go back over the Soquel Village changes, or the changes to Soquel Village, which they say is a huge bottleneck at this time. So maybe Sean, if you want to just walk through some of the improvements here again.
Yeah, sure can. So essentially through this stretch, as Russell mentioned, we're not really changing the lane configurations that we have out there today. It's squeezing as much as we can out of the lanes to be able to enhance the bike lanes through this stretch. So unfortunately, we will not be able to provide any class 4 or buffered bike lanes in this area because we are so constrained through the village area.
All right. Also, will the buffered bike lane continue from Chastelier Avenue through Soquel Village with the elimination of on-street parking?
So we're currently not eliminating parking through this stretch. And Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but the only parking along the corridor that we're eliminating is on Cabrillo, correct? Yeah.
All right. We got another question. Was a right turn only lane from Soquel to 41st, was that looked at?
Yeah, this project, we weren't doing any major street widening, so that right-hand turn lane is not going in under this project, but it has been looked at and as part of a development project earlier.
All right. The next question was, how is the fire district's concern about the narrower lanes for the 9-foot wide trucks?
We have had discussions with the fire district and have provided them a set of plans, and they're reviewing them right now. For the most part, the lanes in Soquel Village have not been reduced. I believe the only area is the 11-foot lane in the eastbound direction has been reduced down to 10.5, so a half a foot in one direction in the eastbound direction. And there still is 11 foot in the number 1 lane going in the eastbound direction.
All right. Was there any looks into traffic calming studies, and what are the expected traffic speeds expected as part of these changes?
Sean, can you elaborate on that one, please?
Yeah, so there were no specific traffic calming studies that were completed, but as we reduced the lanes to be able to provide enhanced bicycle facilities, it's a natural traffic calming tool that we can use as a part of the overall corridor to slow down speeds. Obviously, we know that folks travel very fast through here. And so anything we can do in this case is, or what we've done in this case is narrowed the lanes to be able to slow folks down.
All right.
Thank you.
Will there be a no right turn on red use on any of these to prevent car versus pedestrians at intersections?
No, not as part of this project,
All right.
but we are looking into that in the future.
Someone wants us to go back over, they're not clear on the sidewalk from Robertson towards Safeway. Essentially, it's up a hill. There is a sidewalk and a retaining wall plan for this stretch. Can you confirm that?
Just to clarify, on the south side of Soquel Drive from 41st Avenue to Robertson, there will not be new sidewalk planned, proposed. So the new sidewalk section we have proposed on the south side of Soquel would be from Robertson Street to Dovenbis Avenue. So there's not sidewalk proposed from 41st to Robertson along the south side of Soquel.
All right. I did see a question in here about some driveway access and some alley access. As we mentioned, a lot of these conversations can be directed to the county contact that you have been talking to that can address any of those access questions to your personal properties. All right. The next question is how are you just talked about how our speeds on Soquel Drive actually going to be diminished? And then why is there a buffered bike lane from Robertson to Chancelier when there is a lane before and after that is not buffered?
Yeah, so the intent for the buffered bike lane is to put as much of it as we possibly can and use logical terminal points. So we, if we could put buffered and vertical separation class 4 cycle tracks everywhere we would, but we looked at using those, we can only put those in certain locations. And so that was our #1 goal, is to put as much protected bike lanes as possible. But as we ran out of space, then we went down to a class 2 buffered bike lane. And then in some cases we have just a class 2 bike lane with a thicker stripe. Hopefully that answers that question enough. I don't know, Dan, if you had anything to add there.
No, I don't.
Okay.
All right. Will the Robertson Road 3-way stop sign be converted to traffic lights?
Not as part of this project. It'll be a future project that'll convert that to a signalized intersection.
All right. There was a question on why there is no continuous sidewalk through this corridor.
So there's a portion there that would require some massive retaining walls that were beyond the scope of this project. That's why there's no sidewalks planned for that area at this time. Just cost of the installing those sidewalks with the retaining walls.
All right. Did you consider using lead pedestrian intervals to reduce car versus pedestrian conflicts?
Can you answer that one, Sean, please?
Yeah, Dan, do we have LPIs on this? I'm trying to recall if that was a part of the.
I'm not actually aware that we do. I do not think we do have LPIs currently in our plans.
No.
All right. Why is the Robertson Road traffic light conversion plan for a future project instead of included on this?
It was already started as a project on its own, and it was going to be funded by some development funded projects, or development funded projects. So so that's why it wasn't included as part of this project.
All right. And in terms of the schedule, can you say where along Soquel it will start and how many points will be worked on at any time? Especially there's some concerns about the summertime and the traffic during the summer.
Hey, Sean, can you tackle this one, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great question. What we will be doing is working closely once a contractor is on board to work with them, because we also, well, we'll be working with them to most effectively and efficiently be able to deliver the project. So we don't want to presuppose the way that they want to construct the project. They know better than us and where they can gain efficiencies. And so we'll work closely with them, but the county will ultimately be specifying when and where they can work. But we also want to be able to have the contractor be able to have flexibility to be able to complete the work quickly. And so that'll be a conversation that we'll be having with them once a contractor is on board. So we don't have a specific staging plan developed as of yet, but that will be coming when we get close to construction.
Wonderful. And it looks like I missed a question. Is there a sidewalk plan from Robertson to Debonis? Or
Dobbinbus.
Dobbinbus. I was wondering
Yes.
that. Dobbinbus.
Yes,
you.
there is sidewalk plan for that section.
Wonderful. So yes, there is. Will all the stoplights be able to detect bicycles?
Yes.
Yes.
What are the plans for keeping the buffered bike lanes free of debris, trash cans and such? There was an earlier comment about them being cluttered maybe with trash cans on pickup day.
So we've been working with our solid waste division and trying to make sure that the collections are placed out into the buffer so that they don't block the buffered or protected separated bikeway. Sorry.
Great. Have we considered underground electric for areas where pole access has to be 8 feet and it's already reduced space with major construction to meet those demands?
Yeah, this project does not include undergrounding of utilities. That's actually that would be a much larger cost involved with this project. It would involve a lot more infrastructure construction going on, so it was not considered as part of this project.
All right. Do we have a rough timeline for the future phase through the Aptos Village?
Yeah, I don't have a good timeline on that one. Aptos, it's all going to depend on funding for that project if we can win some grants for that project, but we are definitely looking through that area.
All right. And will the lights be coordinated so they will not have to stop every few blocks?
Hey, Sean, can you tackle that one on the traffic signals?
Yeah, absolutely. That's will be part of the adaptive technologies that will be implemented along the corridor to help relieve congestion. So yes, they will be coordinated.
Wonderful. I'm sure that would be great. Are there any plans to add spots for bike sharing parking?
Yeah, we don't have any areas designated right now for bike sharing as part of this project.
All right. Okay, well, it looks like we've gotten through most of our questions. Still, please put them in. Kayla, if we can go to the end slide so at least people can write down any contact information as well as see the website. We still are getting questions in. So again, we have plenty of time, so please put them in. Well, there'll be slides available after the meeting. Yes, this entire presentation and meeting summary, as well as the appendix, which will be all of these slides, will be posted to our project website, which I'll put in the chat here within the next about 2 weeks. All right, so there's a message from Danny. Have we asked so there's going to most likely be 1 lane of traffic between Robertson and I can't say that word. Dobbinbus on Soquel for a 6-month period, do we think?
It's a good question. It's hard to say, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that it should not be a 6-month delay. And again, most of the work that's going to be done as a part of the sidewalk gap closure projects will be done on the shoulder. So we won't be reducing the throughput of Soquel Drive itself. There will always be 4 lanes, or generally always be 4 lanes open to the traveling public. There'll be some restriping that will happen, some temporary restriping, but most of the work is relegated to the shoulders.
All right. Looks like there's a question that until the Chancellor Bridge is completed, the bike riders wanting to access the Ariana Glosh pots and the Live Oak businesses in Simpkins in the beach need to cross over the Soquel Bridge and make a crazy jump over. Can you describe the new bike lanes and the turns in this area and how that will be affected?
Sean, do you understand this one?
Yeah, I think I do. I'm going to try my best to answer. So yes, until the Chanticleer Avenue overcrossing is constructed, folks will still continue to use the existing Soquel Bridge over the top of Highway 1. So the existing conditions will still remain. We are looking to add enhanced striping along Soquel Drive as it crosses over Highway 1, as that stuff has already started to fade, but there will be no real big physical changes that you'll see out there. It's going to be done through signing and striping at this point.
Wonderful. There's another question. I think it was mentioned that the signals would be somehow connected to the buses. What can they expect for how the changes to the travel times for the bus routes? And is it going to affect any of the normal signaling?
Yeah, so what we have as a part of the, sorry, Russell, to jump in.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
What we have is not only the adaptive signals, again, which will help with congestion and throughput for the regular vehicles, but also transit signal priority. So what that means is the transit vehicles will have priority over regular cars to be able to get through the intersections and get to the stops. So in effect, should enhance reliability of the transit along the corridor.
Wonderful. How will southbound Highway 1 traffic that diverts into Soquel Drive during the evening rush hours be eliminated?
Eliminated is a strong word. I don't know if it's going to be eliminated.
It won't be eliminated. I mean, we can't do anything about people getting off the freeway and using surface streets. But what we can do is we can try to improve the corridor throughput as much as we can.
And I would say that these improvements work in conjunction with the improvements that are happening on Highway 1, so that as this suite of improvements are implemented, it should relieve congestion through the entire corridor, hopefully eliminating or reducing the amount of folks that will need to be getting off and using Soquel as cut through as opposed to staying on Highway 1.
Good point, Sean.
It appears as if the creation of improved bike lanes for the area between Robertson and DeBonis seems wasteful. Is there any change to this configuration, or are these set in stone?
Yeah. So, we're trying to improve bike lanes all throughout this corridor. And this is, we don't want to leave out any area that we can try to improve on. So we want to improve as much of the bike lanes that we can on Soquel Drive. Is there anything you want to add there, Sean?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to understand how that would be wasteful. I think to your point, Russell, we're trying to create as safe of a network as we possibly can, and adding those bike lanes and enhancing them as much as possible, I think is important to be able to achieve that goal.
All right. And it looks like one of our last questions is talking about any safety improvements near the Soquel Bridge and the freeway entrances and exits, and if those were looked into.
So no, at this time, again, we're not looking at major improvements at the interchange. That's all under Caltrans jurisdiction. And so in this case, we would be following essentially what they have today. That's a much bigger project to look at the reconfiguration of the interchange. It doesn't fit within our scope of budget or the timeline in which this project needs to be delivered.
Excellent. Will there be considerations for e-bike or bus carpool designations in the outer vehicle lane?
Not as part of this project.
All right. And then it looks like somebody joined on a little bit late and wondered why, how the bike lanes are going to be protected. And maybe we can just kind of go over what a buffered bike lane is really quick.
Sure, let's go back to that. You're almost there, Kayla. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Go one more. There you go. Yeah, no, so what you see in the upper right-hand picture is what's called a Class 4 cycle track. This is a bike facility that is not only separated from the travel lanes by a buffer, you can see the crosshatch stripe there, but also a vertical element. In this case, this is very similar to what we'll be installing as a part of our project, which is what they call a Class 1 delineator that provides that vertical separation.
Wonderful. And all right, and then it looks like we have a question. Will the southbound right-hand lane at State Park Drive be converted to a right lane, right turn only lane? It next down to 1 through Aptos.
No, it will not be part of this project.
All right. It looks like our final question is, can we share the detailed plan, but for the whole plan in the image? Yes, we will definitely look into our website images and make sure that we are sharing this presentation as clear as possible as well. All right, again, if there are any questions, any last questions, please put them into the chat box below. Again, I'm going to put in the chat box here our project website. So again, we ask you to stay in touch with us through our project website, as well as we have Amanda's contact information on the screen now. She's with the county and she can answer any questions that you may have. Again, if you're talking about any properties or any questions about the properties directly, please talk to the contact that you have already made at the county. But again, we really, really appreciate all of the fantastic questions and the engaging with our project team here tonight. We're really excited about bringing this to Santa Cruz, and we look forward to hearing more from you. And with that, I think that wraps up our meeting here for tonight. But again, I just wanted to say thank you guys all for your participation, and we hope to hear from you all soon.